Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and today we are talking about a question that I get asked a lot. Is it better to game on a PS5 or PC? Which is better and why? Like, just how different are they and what are the real pros and cons? Well, we're going to go over the performance, games, ease of use and value for money, and the overall gaming experience of these two systems. So if you're wondering if the grass is in fact greener, hopefully today's video will answer all of your questions. But before we jump in, let me know which of these you currently game on or which you prefer. Are you team PC or team console? Okay, so first up, it's safe to say that these two look very different. The PS5 or consoles in general are smaller and designed to slot under your TV unit, next to your monitor or on your shelf. They don't take up too much space and they don't really stand out. Now you can of course customize how they look, but nothing more than swapping out the console covers on the side. Otherwise you kind of know where you stand with this. But it does also mean that you are limited on how it looks and how it will fit into your setup. But then there's PCs, and this is an absolute beast of a thing. I mean, typically speaking, PCs are far bigger than any console. And this isn't really a fair test, as my PC is an XL case from Fractal North. Now, you don't need to go for a large case like this, as you can of course go for a mini RTX case and build a tiny PC. But let's be real, most PC setups are not small. Whereas even the PS5 Pro looks pretty small against a PC, let alone something like an Xbox Series S. However, there is one thing that PC will always win over a console, and that's the customization. Do you want a black XL case with wooden panels? Done. Actually, maybe you want a smaller white version of the same case. No problem. Glass panels so you can see the internals, full-blown RGB, or maybe a blackout look. Pretty much anything you can think of can be done to a PC. The only real limitation is how much you're willing to spend. And that's what's great about PC gaming, is you can customize it exactly as you need it. But let's be honest, the biggest talked about differences between PS5 and PC gaming is performance. Yes, we know that PC is technically better, but just how much better is it over, say, the PS5 Pro? Well, the PS5 Pro is a beast for the price. Straight out of the box, games are optimized for the hardware. Meaning with no messing around, you're getting up to 4K resolution and up to 120 FPS. You can fire up games like Gran Turismo 7 and get 4K thanks to PSSR and a steady 120 FPS, as well as VRR and HDR. What more could you want than that? Of course, this does max out at 120 FPS if you've got a TV or monitor that supports it, but that is still a decent output from a console. The only thing to note though is we're not always getting true 4K. In fact, sometimes we don't even know what resolution we're getting, as we cannot properly dive into every game to check. And some games, even in 2025, we are still only seeing 30 FPS. But then when it comes to PC gaming, you can completely blow these figures away and outperform a console quite easily. I'll show you a couple of examples, but I've got an RTX 5080 build with 64GB of RAM and an i9 14900K. With this, I can throw almost any game at it, like Cyberpunk 2077, and achieve a 4K resolution and up to 120 FPS thanks to DLSS4. On paper, this might not sound like a huge difference to what the PS5 can do, but seeing how good the ray tracing is, the smoothness, and the overall quality of the image is honestly looks unreal. But remember, that's comparing a $700 or £700 PS5 Pro to a GPU that costs £950 alone, so it's going to be better. You can also jump into the settings of almost any game and view and tweak the resolution, frame rate, and performance to exactly what you need while you're on PC. But if you bought something like an RTX 4060 for about £260 to £280, you could match the Pro's performance and get a very similar experience and output from it. But if you really want to blow the Pro out of the water, you'll need to spend a lot more. Now, I will cover costs later in today's video, but this is where you realize that it's not just about the upfront cost, it's the ongoing cost if you're always chasing the performance. But what about the games, I hear you say? Well, this is where things get a little more personal because both of these have exclusives. Now, the lines between PC and console games have definitely blurred a little over the years, because we're seeing far more PC games heading to console and console games showing up on PC. Now, the PS5 has some seriously impressive games when it comes to exclusives. We're talking about Spider-Man 2, Death Stranding 2, Astro Bot, and the upcoming Ghost of Yotai and Wolverine. These are some of the best games out there in my opinion. And the fact that they are exclusive at launch to the PS5 will keep you on that system if you really want to play them. However, the same can be said for PC. There are loads of games that are coming out on early access that you can only play on PC today. Games like Dune Awakening, which are not yet on the PS5. So if you want to play that and you don't want to wait, you're gonna need to get yourself a PC. But but also on PC you don't get the big PlayStation exclusives straight away, as you usually need to wait a year or two. But you do get Steam, Epic Games, Xbox Game Pass, and loads of indie games you've probably never even heard of. You also get early access to games that you just cannot get on console, sometimes years in advance, and access to retro games too. Like, you can literally emulate a PS1 or an N64 and play all of those old classic games on your PC. Now obviously, some of this isn't necessarily legal, but the fact is your PC can play almost everything that you can possibly think of. So as an all-in-one gaming machine, the PC really does do it all. Now I would say on the whole, most games are playable on both systems. You might need to wait a little, but eventually they will show up. But with that said, the library of games is far bigger and better on PC. But it's not just about the games or the performance of those games that you want to focus on, it's also the whole gaming experience, and that's where these two are again very different. If you're a competitive gamer, like you play a lot of Call of Duty or other FPS games, you will max out at 120 FPS on console, whereas on PC you could push this to 240 or even 480 FPS, and this will make a huge difference for those competitive games. I think if you're someone who chases the FPS figure, then PC gaming will always win, as sub 120 is gonna feel pretty slow. You've then got the choice of what screen to play on. For PC, you have the option of either playing on a TV or a monitor, and you could even choose to go for an ultra-wide monitor instead. So for those games that support it, you're going to get a crazy immersive experience, as you're playing on a 21:9 display instead of the typical 16:9. For consoles though, you are going to be limited to that 16:9 display, as the PS5 does not support ultra-wide. Well, I mean, technically you can use one, but the image will either be stretched or you'll have black bars on either side. This means you'll want to use a traditional flat TV or monitor like I'm using here. And that's something else worth mentioning, is the price of the monitor or the TV that you might want to use. For console gaming, pretty much every TV supports 4K and up to 120 FPS. Whereas if you're on PC and you're chasing those higher FPS counts, you're going to need to spend more for those type of monitors. And what if you want to stream? I'm talking about streaming your gameplay to Twitch or YouTube. Well, the PS5 does allow you to stream directly from the console, so there's nothing stopping you from doing that. However, if you want more control over the stream, including chat overlays, multiple tabs, and different camera angles, PC gaming will give you far more flexibility. Oh, and don't forget that if you use Steam to purchase and play your games, you'll be able to play your library away from your setup on something like the ROG Ally or a Steam Deck. Yes, of course you can do this with the PlayStation Portal, but technically you're remote playing your games from the PS5. So if you wanted to play Death Stranding 2, for example, you would need an internet connection and your PS5 to be on in order to play. Whereas on PC, you can take your library with you and play directly on the handheld. And then we have the ease of use, which is a bigger deal than a lot realise, because you cannot beat grabbing your PS5 controller, sitting down at your setup, and within seconds you're ready to play. Sure, there might be a system update or maybe even a game update, but 99% of the time you can just jump straight into your game without even thinking about it. There's no drivers, no BIOS updates, and it's pretty rare that it crashes. It is a plug and play system. Whereas on PC, it's not always that simple. You're not running a simplified UI or OS for gaming, you're probably running Windows with dozens of other softwares installed, each needing updates either in the background or every time you boot it up. You've got patches to worry about, troubleshooting if something goes wrong with your driver or your game isn't loading. However, it also means you get far more control. You have access to graphics settings, frame rate caps, you can monitor performance and even overclock it. PCs are definitely far more work, but they give you far more control if you want it. And then you've also got the choice of how you want to play. If you're a keyboard and mouse player, you will naturally lean towards PC. And if you prefer a controller, well, you're going to pick the console. However, don't forget that you can play both on both systems. So most games support controllers on PC, and quite a lot of games allow keyboard and mouse to be used on the PS5. It's just which you prefer to use. Also, do you want to do more than just gaming? Maybe multitasking with different windows and tabs open, streaming and YouTube? But practically, a PC will always offer a better multitasking experience. You can game and work at the same time, install any software you'd like, and run mods if you wanted to. However, if you like the simple plug-and-play side of gaming, no worries, and class yourself as a casual gamer, the PS5 wins purely on ease of use. And talking of mods or customizing your console or PC, again this can be very different. On the PS5 you can change your wallpaper on the Welcome tab and swap out your console covers to a different colour, but that's kind of it. We're all rocking the same consoles and the same UI, whereas on PC you can go crazy. We're talking case, size, internals and RGB, not to mention wallpaper, software and mods. You can build a PC from the ground up or buy one off the shelf. Either way, almost every PC you see online is completely different and personal to that user. And that's actually a really cool thing to see. I think that's actually one of the things that draws people to PC gaming is the customization and the overall look, not necessarily the gaming itself. But then there's game mods, and this isn't something that I've got into myself, so I cannot comment on my actual experience. But if you want to run mods in games like GTA or Stellar Blade, you can only do this on a PC. And I have to say that the mods you can do in some of these games are crazy. You can completely change how a game looks, feels, and even functions. You could give Eve a whole new outfit in Stellar Blade, add an entire new story in GTA, or reskin characters in games with a whole new look. Now, PS5 modding, on the other hand, is practically non-existent. You can't do anything other than what the devs allow you to do in their games. So again, if you want to play these games kind of outside the box, then PC modding is the way to go. Now, if you're a single-player gamer and you like to play games like Spider-Man or God of War, you can play these on both systems without issue and without any additional costs. But what about multiplayer games? Well, on PlayStation, you can play online with your mates, but unless it's a free-to-play game like Warzone or Fortnite, you're going to need to pay for PlayStation Plus in order to play online. And this can be anywhere from $7.99 a month to $120 a year depending on the plan that you choose. Whereas on PC, multiplayer is usually free. You don't need a subscription to play online. And don't forget that if you're on PC, you also get access to services like Xbox Game Pass, which is unreal value. Only this week we saw the latest Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 drop on there day one. So if you're on PC, it might be worth grabbing Game Pass too. Of course, you can also subscribe to PS Plus. You could literally play PC, PlayStation and Xbox games in one place. Okay, now let's talk about the cost, because depending on your budget and what you need, this can vary a lot. Firstly, a standard PS5 is around $450 or £430, while the PS5 Pro will set you back £700 or $700. But that is for a complete ready-to-go console with everything you need, including a controller. There's no surprises here and you know exactly what you're getting. Whereas when it comes to buying a PC, the scale of how much you could spend is borderline limitless. Like, you could spec an RTX 4060 build for £800, but you're still going to need a controller or a keyboard and mouse. But it will at least do everything that the PS5 Pro can do. Or if you go all out and go for a pre-built RTX 5090, that will do everything you could possibly throw at it, but it will set you back thousands and thousands of pounds. Of course, you could go down the build your own route for slightly less, but the options available means you could spend anywhere from £500 to $4,000. And then you've got the long-term cost. So on PS5, other than maybe adding an SSD drive, there's nothing else you need to upgrade. Just PS Plus if you need it for online. PC, on the other hand, depending on the games you play or what new components or parts you need, you could find yourself spending more and more over the years. The bottom line with price is the PS5 wins hands down on upfront and long-term costs, but PC definitely gives you far more flexibility overall, if you're willing to spend on it. So after all of that, comparing the price, form factor, games, customization, mods and loads more, which is actually better? Well, I think this comes down to a few things. The first being your budget. If money is no issue, you can buy, upgrade and max out a PC with everything that you need, then a PC will give you so much more over a console. But a console is usually a simple one-time purchase and you don't have to worry about upgrades. Then there's the build. Do you have the time or the knowledge to build a gaming PC? Or are you happy with the off-the-shelf plug-and-play element of a console? And finally, are you chasing high performance, whether that be frame rate or resolution, that a console just cannot match? Now personally, even with an RTX 5080 setup that can handle almost everything I throw at it, I still like the no frills, ease of use of a console. It's a lot more casual, which is the type of gamer that I am. I can power it on, apply a single console update and I'm good to go. But I do see and appreciate the massive appeal to PC gaming if you're happy to spend money and time building, tweaking and maintaining it. So ease of use and cost goes to the PS5, but performance, Steam and customization to PC. But ultimately they're both awesome and once you're in a game you could be on either system. But let me know which one of these you currently game on and which you think is best for you. Are you team PC or team PS5/console? Well, hopefully that gave you a fair overview of my experience with both. Now drop a PS5 or PC is better in the comments depending on which one you prefer, and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out this video next. Well, thanks for watching, please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.